Hi, this is Alex with Maple Leaf Coffee Roasters in Roselle. I'm here to talk about our May 2025 Club Coffee, a fun natural process coffee from Mexico. Check it out. So as a reminder, our Club Coffee program is a sort of coffee of the month system where we bring in a members only coffee every month, roast it a couple different ways, send out a bunch of extra notes and information about the coffee, and give our members a chance to try one of three different roasts that we do with the coffee every month. We try to use it as an opportunity to experiment and try some different coffees, different roasting methods, things like that, and expose people to some of the different varieties of coffee than we normally feature on our shelf here every day. This month we have a natural process coffee from Mexico, and it's not often that we see a natural process coffee coming out of Mexico. In fact, I've never had a natural process coffee from Mexico on the shelf for regular buyers. This is something that is always a fun opportunity to do, to feature a coffee with a different processing method from an origin that we have had coffee from consistently over the years. When we've brought in coffees from Mexico in the normal course of business here, we always feature them as medium roasts, and we like to have them on our shelves for coffee options that are easier on the stomach, very creamy and mellow. Sometimes they'll have a little bit of a citrus, almost a nutty tint to them as well. They've always been washed coffees though. And the reason for that in terms of the selection for our shelves is that a wash process coffee from Mexico is very predictable, very easy to approach. There's really going to be no surprises in that, either for me or for my customers here when they're coming to buy something like that. For me, the exotic kind of novel nature of a natural process coffee from Mexico is something that really gave me a interest in bringing this coffee in for a club. As a reminder, the different processing methods for coffee can have a real outsized effect on the coffee overall, not just for the taste, but also for the way it roasts, for the way it presents, for the kinds of things you can do with it, and still have something that turns out to be good tasting. So this is a fun chance that I had to bring in that different processing method into a coffee that we've had before on our normal shelves. And of course, we've had some Mexican coffees in our club before. So as usual, we did our light, medium, and dark roast this month. Didn't approach the roast here in any way other than what the usually is done for a Mexican coffee. Roasting Mexican coffees, generally, we try to do something that doesn't try to stress the coffee out too much. We don't try to push it one way back or forward in terms of making it more sharp or less sharp than it usually is. Mexican coffees are generally very easy to roast, not super tough to approach, and this natural process coffee was no different. In fact, this is actually roasted very similarly to a wash processed Mexican coffee, and I didn't have any trouble getting it done. It wasn't a highly chaffy coffee either. A lot of times the natural process coffees will have a lot of chaff that is produced through the course of the roasting, and that can kind of make some of the roasting technique a little bit difficult for some of those coffees. For the three roasts this month, all across the board, these are very low acidity coffees. Mexican coffees, conventionally speaking, are very easy on the stomach, not sharp or tart or acidic by any measure. And there's no real distinction between the three of these in terms of the acidity level. In fact, each of them is probably just as stomachable as the next. And I thought that that was a nice way for us this month, for me to try to push some of my normally medium roast drinkers into something maybe a little bit lighter. The light roast this month for the natural process Mexican has a lot of the similarities that you would normally expect from Mexican coffee. It has a kind of creaminess to it, a little bit of that kind of lime tint to it, but a fun, different kind of fruitiness to it that was subtle and not super strong. So you see a little bit of like an apricot, almost grapefruit sort of tone. The grapefruit sort of flavors in coffee sometimes can present themselves a little bit of like a lemon or lime kind of flavor. But this one, it's very, very subtle there, and it's not one of those kind of sharp grapefruit sorts of flavors that you sometimes see either out of grapefruit itself or out of some coffees, especially from other parts of Central America. Kind of a little bit of a nutty hint, not super strong. It's kind of there in the background, a little bit of a caramel tone as well, and very easy, very mellow on the stomach. That kind of creaminess sort of pervades the experience of this coffee overall. I think if you're normally a person that stays away from light roast because of that kind of sharp acidic nature, this is a coffee that you should definitely give a shot to in the medium roast this month, or the light roast this month. I think that you're not going to find many other coffees as a light roast that are going to have that kind of easy drinking kind of sensibility to them. The medium roast of this coffee, very similar to a lot of Mexican coffees that we've had either on the normal shelf or in the club when we've had those from time to time. I wasn't super impressed by the medium roast here. I think that when I went into drinking the light roast, I kind of had a higher expectation, higher standards set for this coffee, given that it is something that's different. And I wanted to really get something fun out of that light roast, given the natural processing method. More of a mellow kind of milk chocolate sort of tone out of the medium roast. Not a super strong chocolatey feel on this one. That syrupy kind of flavor, the syrupy finish that was in the light roast is a little bit more prominent, a little stronger in the medium roast, which is not unexpected. A lot of times the medium roast coffees will have a little bit more of a thicker, richer flavor than the light roasts, of course, which is just a natural byproduct of a medium roast coffee. A little bit of that nutty kind of sensibility to it too. Very mellow overall, very even keeled kind of medium roast coffee here. I wasn't super impressed with the medium roast coffee. That might very well be because we've always done medium roasts on our Mexican coffees from the normal shelf. And so I kind of went into the medium roast myself, kind of knowing exactly what I was going to get. And I wasn't super surprised with the medium roast form of this coffee this month. So I definitely would steer into normal medium roast drinkers towards the light roast this month because I think there's a little bit more fun things going on there. Moving on to the dark roast, the fun part of this dark roast is that it is another one of those kind of coffees that we've had in our club where though it is a dark roast that has a thicker, richer flavor, it doesn't have a real heavy feel to it. And I think it's fun when we find a coffee that we can roast dark that still has a little bit of character to it, doesn't lose a ton of the original flavor elements to it, but it still has that kind of richer, fuller flavor that you generally tend to expect out of a dark roast coffee. You still see a lot of the kind of creamy feel to it that you see out of the light or the medium, but the darker roast tends to bring out a little bit more of like a burnt sugar, sweeter kind of sensibility, kind of like a toasty aspect from the roast, and a little bit more of a dry fruit, almost like a prune kind of fruit flavor to this one. The dark roast, generally speaking, will also have kind of a malty finish, which this one definitely does. Pairs quite nicely with the kind of creamy feel of the coffee together with that kind of malty flavor. And this is one of those dark roasts that doesn't have a big body to it. So you will drink this, you will feel it. It will not be something that lingers in your palate for a super long period of time. I do think that if you're normally a person that likes a medium roast but wants it to be a bit richer and more bold, you're probably going to want to skew towards the dark roast this month because it will drink a bit heavier than what you would normally expect for a medium roast, but it's not going to be so dark that it will kind of turn you off or be burned or bitter. One interesting aspect on this dark roast too, I did get a little bit of like a dark chocolate, kind of a tiny bit of a bitter taste to it. And every once in a while when someone hears the word bitter associated with coffee, they have a negative connotation they associate with that. And one thing to remember, an important thing to remember about kind of a bitter taste is a lot of times bitter can actually be a really good and refreshing taste in some foods, coffee not excluded from that. Dark chocolate is bitter. It's kind of what it's meant to be. And this is a kind of bitter that I think blends really well with the mellow, creamy kind of feel of this coffee and the fact that you get a little kind of touch of hit from that bitter taste that finishes very quickly because of the medium body, the light to kind of medium feel of this coffee overall. So for all three coffees this month, I think there's a lot of similarities in this. There is a fun complexity from the natural processing method in this coffee. I'm going to try my best to steer folks away from the medium roast this month, mostly because it just wasn't super stunning or interesting. Not a bad coffee by any means. I'm sure that there'll still be a few people that go for the medium roast this month, but I think that the light roast and the dark roast are really where it's at. The light roast, because it does bring out some of the vibrancy and the interesting elements to a conventional Mexican flavor, along with that natural processing, you do get a fun kind of bit of a fruity aspect to it as well. And the dark roast does still stand up quite well. You don't lose a ton of the flavor, and you get a malty, thicker, richer finish that you don't normally see out of some of the coffees from Mexico, especially not a natural process one as well. So really looking forward to everyone enjoying this coffee this month for the month of May. And if you are interested in joining our coffee club program, make sure to send us an email or stop in the store to learn a little bit more about the program. And also make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel to get new coffee videos and club coffee videos all the time as soon as they're released. Hope to catch you next time here for another great club coffee video. Take care.